Let's get the conversation started, and it's time for us to get interactive. Talking about the flood predictions and what we've seen so far, it's quite telling that we're going to have yet another experience that will perhaps disturb and upend the livelihood of quite a lot of people. Case in point, Lagos. Let's roll some of the films there for you so you can see what we're talking about, engage the impact it has had on Nigeria's commercial capital. These were scenes from different parts of Lagos yesterday, from the island to the mainland, everywhere inundated by flood waters. You can see cars submerged. You can see people struggling to move from one destination to the other. Work was pretty much not feasible yesterday for the most part. School children couldn't leave their homes. These are people's homes submerged in water. And yeah, it's everywhere you go. And the projections are looking bleak also for many other states, according to NIMET projections for the year 2024. So, if you're calling in from Lagos or from any part of the country, what are your concerns regarding some of these predictions, especially as the rains continue to flow, for the rainy season? Let's have your thoughts on, some of your concerns there, especially with the infrastructure, where some of our gutters are packed with dirt, where sometimes you get a sense that we don't even have the infrastructure that will allow for the water to actually flow in and out of various locations, so that we don't have to deal with some of these disasters. The phone lines will be shown on your TV screen in just a moment. In fact, the phone lines are there, and I think we do have our first caller. We've lost that connection, so feel free to call back and let's have a conversation about the flood predictions.
Yeah. All right.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Kure is the name.
Sorry, come again?
Kure is the name, calling from Kaduna.
Mr. Kule from Kaduna, how are you this morning?
Kure.
Okay, I beg your pardon.
K-U-R-A.
Kure from
Yes, sir.
Kaduna. Good morning. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate you people. Anytime that I have night, I just have to street to your station. It's so unfortunate in this country. Nobody seems to care for the ordinary citizen. I don't know. Others climb. Before issue like this, they will make sure that they put some things in place. But the government are not even helping matters. They will see it, they will just turn their face away simply because it will not affect them. So I urge the ordinary citizen, they should always make provision for their safety. It's only God that is guiding us in this country. Because the ordinary man have no say in terms of politics, in terms of whatever in this country. But we'll get it right by God's grace. Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kure. Have a good day. Appreciate you for calling in. And, you can't argue with that position, because it's years of neglect for expanding our infrastructure, for doing the needful, for, setting up necessary stop gaps, because we can predict some of these things, which gives us information forehand to say, okay, this is what we need to do. Either move to higher grounds or come up with, sandbanks.
And I agree with you 100%. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, your name and where you calling from. Please kindly turn down the volume of your TV set so we could have... Hello, good morning. All right, I heard the sound of a baby there. Please do well to reach back to us and share your perspective with us. I was going to say that most of the footages that we showed earlier were largely from mainland Lagos. We saw footages from the Oshodi mega interchange. We saw footages from Festac. We saw footages from Ojodu area of Lagos. We saw footages from Ogba area of Lagos. These are mainland Lagos. You now begin to wonder what will happen to places like Marina, to Lekki, that has perpetually featured on the list of this flood every other year. You begin to wonder what will happen to the island areas, in the coming days, because like you rightly mentioned, there had been a forecast of 3 days of rain, and this is just
the beginning.
Just the beginning. Good morning.
Good morning, please.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, my name is Henry. I'm calling from Otukpo in Benue State.
Good morning, Mr. Henry. How is Otukpo this morning?
Otukpo is fine.
And I hope you are walking on the road, the major road within the city center that leads all the way to Enugu.
Yes, I am watching everything, and I am delighted to be watching what I'm seeing now.
Let us have your thoughts on what's happening.
Yes, my thoughts about what is happening is that just like the other caller from Kaduna said, the government is not willing to do anything to solve a problem like this. Because you cannot have this in anywhere in Abuja where they have their own houses, even though they don't live in. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that, you see, freedom is not given on a platter of gold. For us to get our freedom from these politicians, yes, we need to fight it. We need to fight it. So the problem is that we, the ordinary citizens, are we willing to fight these politicians? We, the ordinary citizens, are we willing to fight these politicians? You see, we had some times ago where we have this issue of NSAS. It was politicized, hijacked by the politicians, and the youth were used against.
Go ahead and continue to make your thought. We can hear you.
Thank you. The youth were used against the cause. So therefore, if we are talking like the other caller from Kaduna is saying, God will help us. God will not just come down to help us. We need to rise up and fight the system like it happened in other countries. Just recently, the case of Kenya, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Where some laws were made concerning taxes, and the people revolted, they rise against it, even though lives were lost, but the aim was achieved.
Yeah.
So can that happen here in Nigeria?
Yeah. A fantastic contribution there about what the people need to do. But thank you most kindly for joining the conversation. Yeah, this morning. I think, just to double down on what he's saying, I mean, the protests and everything is all just to drive home the idea that people need to speak up. Because for so long a time, our leaders have paid lip service to these concerns. I mean, just yesterday we were talking about poor road networks, dilapidated roads, non-existent roads. And the essence of having infrastructure like this is so that it can absorb some of the shocks that we're seeing right now. If the infrastructure is big enough to contain some of these, it will help mitigate it quite significantly.
All right, we have another caller. Good morning. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello, my name. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I call from Zamfara State. My name is Andy.
Andy from Zamfara State.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, you see, we informatives are those that at the receiving end.
Go ahead.
The reason I say so is that government is not helping us enough because for past 20, 30 years now, I've been living in Zamfara State. I know how bad our road is from Umunede down to the north. Then apart from that, see, The government of these days, I don't know who the pharmacists, are they working for themselves? And that is the answer we need from them. Because the same government will go and look at a swamping land, a drainage land that water flow through to individuals, give them certificates, give them everything. They construct houses on the waterways, later. If another government comes in, they come and demolish it. So, my point is this. We, the pharmacists, to raise up and fight for our rights. Good morning. God bless all of you.
Good morning, Andy.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
For those contributions.
You know, well, you might have made the point, but on the one hand is standing up to the government, on the other is also waking up to your responsibility. You don't need the government, for instance, to enforce proper disposal of wastes. You know, and it is the collation of these little environmental bad habits, you know, that translates into something.
It's a culmination
bigger,
of small acts.
Small acts, you know, that eventually translates into a bigger catastrophe.
But there's also the question of where the government is missing out, especially in Lagos, for instance. The efforts to take down homes that were built on waterways, for instance.
That's right.
Let's speak to our next caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Babae Muhammad calling from Kaduna.
Did you say Babae Umar from Kaduna?
Babae Muhammad.
Babae Muhammad from Kaduna. Good morning. Go ahead.
What is going on now concerning the flood is very pathetic, and we'll be sympathizing with them. But if you look at the trend, now it's just the beginning of the rains.
Yeah.
It's down to the west. Later in the years, it will be gradually coming upwards to the north. So this should be a wake-up call, not for the government and to citizens at large. And to the Lagos people, you see, after this flood, the next thing that they will experience is disease and maybe cholera outbreak.
We're already dealing with it, Babae.
Exactly. So it will spike more because of the flood. Because there is no proper drainage and the people and the government, but most especially the people now. If maybe if one government said they will create more pathway, destroy houses, people will start jumping up and down.
And there are no. Of course, I agree with you, Babayo. But talk to us about Kaduna. We used to know that the axis around the Constitution Road leading to Gamji Gate behind used to be prone to this flood all the way to Nasarawa area. What's the situation like in the last couple of years?
Yes. Previous years, like 2 years, we've been having in those kind of areas, just the way you said it. But thank God to last administration of Malam Naso Erufai.
Okay.
He made some very good initiative, dredging the rivers.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so when he dredged the rivers, last 2 years, we did not have any serious flood in Kaduna.
Thank you very much for that contribution. And the perspective you bring to the conversation around the public health concern, you know, because you know why this is worse? Lagos, unlike Abuja, does not have a central sewage management system. So
I mean, is there any other state that has what Abuja has with the central sewage system? There's no other state that have it.
Absolutely.
That has it,
you know, so you have silos of sewage collection systems in houses that have now been overflooded. You know, the impact of that would be unearthing that mess, you know, mixing it up and transporting it from that place to, and so that increases the public health concerns, as he has rightly mentioned. And when you think about that and you think of the population of Lagos and the density around a very small portion of land, it really, you know, send you
But I'm really big on the regulatory aspect of government issuing building permits to people who are going to build on waterways, because this also compounds the problem, if we're being honest.
That's right.
You build on waterways, what it does is it builds the pressure up on areas that don't necessarily need to feel the impact. I mean, areas like in Lekki, for instance, you anticipate things like this are going to happen because of, the water level and things like that. But in so many other states, you also have so many residential buildings in waterways that do not need to be there, and that the government turned a blind eye to. And when things like this happen, we act surprised when our homes get flooded and things like that. So bulk of the problem definitely has to do with regulations and things like that. Absolutely. And also, the government always constantly, especially when speaking to the predictions, talk about people moving to higher grounds. I don't think that's a solution.
It's not.
I mean, there are no homes on higher grounds that people can move into. There are no makeshift apartments for people to move into. So people stick around where they know they can actually call that place home and, wait for the disaster to happen.
Some persons have been on this ground for over 50 years. Where did they suddenly become low grounds? It is basically these blockages that is now increasing the incursion. And with the rising water levels, and for a state that is seated next to the Atlantic, what do you expect, basically? So sea levels are rising. They naturally will find their ways into lowlands, and you happen to be sitting around one, and worse still, you don't have channels that effectively help you drain this water after massive storms back into the ocean. Where
I like the point he made about dredging the rivers also. Look at River Benue, for instance, what we're failing to do with dredging it, because much of the flood waters could easily be channeled towards most countries. I mean, I've seen so many reports where countries have used these flood disasters to their advantage by channeling the water towards dams or earth dams for animal husbandry or for irrigation and things like that. But unfortunately for us, it's disaster all round, from the rainfall to the impact it is having on communities. I think we have someone on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from. And if you can do us a favor and speak up a little bit.
All right, my name is Nebzak Wapmak.
Nebzak Wapmak.
Yeah, I'm calling from Abuja.
Right. Go ahead, Nebzak.
Yeah, Nigerians, we are very, very funny. We, the masses, we have our problem. The government also have their own problems. The masses, when you talk about keeping the environment clean, we need, as an individuals, to have the habit of keeping our atmosphere, our environment clean. When we play our own path, then we can hold government responsible for their own part. Let's set an example around this. That's Maraba in particular. That's along Kefi, Maraba exists. In most cases, virtually year in, year out, you will see a blockage, and water will usually stay on the road. On the stagnant on the high express road. So at the end of the day, when you find out, you will see some gates and like rubber and other things that are being flooded on top of the water. We don't have a proper drainage. And we, as an individuals, we don't even have the manage of how to manage our control over our sewages or our cans that we just throw anything, the earth, you just throw it along you literally it anyhow. So if you do that, you can't expect that government will come. Are you calling upon the governor to come and clean the place for you, or you are calling the chairman to come and clean it for you, or who? The sanctity of your environment is your health. In fact, if you go to buy some things in that Maraba market or by the roadside, if you hear the way that the place smells very, very bad, and you see people are sitting there comfortably, how do you? I wonder. I sometimes ask myself question: are these people not perceiving this odor? Are they not feeling what I'm perceiving? then you will stay there for like 6 hours or 12 hours. It's not good. Health-wise, it's not good for you. And if you know like that, then you have to clean the environment so that we can have a good atmosphere for whatever business we're doing. So also the government has also felt in its own area. If there is a blockage, make a proper alternative. Why is it year in year out there will be always problem on that part of the road? Then work on it. The Ministry of Works should also do something about it. If there is where they're supposed to channel that heavy water that comes from let's say building materials or nyanya that is coming down to that road, that the water must always find a way or its own way. If you don't have it, it block, and it block, it will be a problem. And that's the problem we are facing. So the government also should, on one hand, should do the needful by making sure the channels where water is supposed to be following properly. And also we as an individuals, we should also be very careful of dropping things anyhow, like a can, like scratch can or whatever. We shouldn't be littering them around. It is not good for environment. Now, one of the caller said something that revolution, there are some countries that they are fighting to protect fighting for their right. Fine. But in Nigeria, has anything ever worked when using protests? Make we set the truth to ourselves. The only time where I know say Nigerians they stood protest that it checked the government that the government did something small was during the era of Goodluck Jonathan. When they protested for fuel, they reversed the fuel. When they protested, anytime they protested for something, Jonathan will listen. But when they came for Buhari regime, Buhari just carried fuel from 80 something, I think 80 something or 90 something to 140. Nobody said anything. Nobody making. Then are we? How is that workable in this country? Again, they said fuel subsidy. In some other answers, they said it was a scam. Right. There was nothing like fuel subsidy in the first place. And Baba came. Actually, Tinubu did the needful, but he's supposed to not carry the fuel price from where it should be to another 600 or 700 or something. Did anybody head roll to go and protest? If it was not protest during Buhari regime, can we protest that in this era? So we now look at it. We have now narrowed our way of life based on sentiment and religious bias. So if we are going to do away with, if for Nigeria, for things to work in this country, we have to drop all these things and put Nigeria first. Let me play my own part as a citizen. What can I do? If there is security challenges in my area, do I report? Do I play my own part? Right. Do I stand to say this person, what you are doing is wrong? That's why it is called neighbor security watch. Do we do our own part? You are hiding other brothers as a criminal within yourself. You are hiding, you are harboring them.
Okay.
It's not fair. So we need to.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for making the effort and for your contribution this morning. We really appreciate you. I mean, we can spend a lot more time talking about everything that is wrong with our system right now, but we wanted to narrow the conversation to those flood concerns and also to highlight some of the gaps with the infrastructure and what concerns the citizens, especially as it relates to flood. But I can also understand that there's a string that binds and ties all of these issues together when it comes to poor performance of governance, as well as our elections, our democracy, and generally the state of affairs in the country with regards to our minds and our mentality. But
before we move on, a number of things were striking for me. Some of our callers, of course, pointed out the public health concerns as far as Lagos is concerned. But when we begin to see the floods in the Middle Belt down north, we begin to talk about food security.
Yeah.
The rains came in very late.
Yeah, farms get wiped out.
Farm gets wiped out. There are no form of insurance, to support the smallholders, farmers. And the wider implication for us, of course, is the continuous hike, in food inflation, which is already above 40%. And finally, for me, it's, did you see the face of Nigerians even
Yeah,
in
they
the
were
situation,
smiling
they were
about it,
smiling,
suffering
yeah.
and smiling. I think fella said it best. We have a way, and I think it's a coping mechanism. It's not a smile of excitement or
That's
anything.
right.
It's just you get the sense that, you know, even in defeat,
You
we
know,
find a way to
in
laugh
other
about some of
climes,
these
for
things.
instance, I've been in other climes when it snows, and there are public advisories against coming out, against driving.
Yeah.
There were meteorological reports about these 3 days of rain and what possible impact, but people were still driving into the danger to show up
but
at
they
work.
also have emergency snow plows that clear the
road,
pathways. In this particular case, there's no emergency service whatsoever. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the expression "to be forewarned is to be forearmed" doesn't apply.
Just doesn't.
We saw this flood coming from miles and miles away, months and months ago, but guess what? We weren't able to do anything about it, to a point where it even led to the death of one toddler who was, caught up in the floodwaters in Lagos. Thank you, Muskali, to all our contributors this morning, for those who called in to make their contributions, and all those who tried unsuccessfully. We appreciate you for taking the time. Daybreak returns in just a moment. We're going to double down on some of these issues raised by the developments that we've seen so far, especially in Lagos, and going forward. What do these predictions signpost going forward as the rains continue to fall in the weeks and months to come?